evening. So tonight we are here to talk about our Pouch with Purpose campaign, a conversation with Janae and Erica. This is our Facebook Live event. And we simply just wanted to bring some awareness to our annual giving campaign where our team, our Beautycounter team, Counter Excellence, pledges to secure sponsors of pouches filled with clean personal care products for worthy recipients affiliated with an important organization or a cause. And so, for the last 2 years, we have had the pleasure of successfully executing this campaign and surpassing our goal each year. In 2018, we partnered with St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, where we delivered 800 pouches to the caregivers of the patients at St. Jude. In 2019, we partnered with the Cancer Treatment Centers of America and delivered 1,200 pouches to their patients who were undergoing cancer treatments. This year, and I'm so excited, we have the very unique opportunity of partnering with March of Dimes, which is an organization that is leading the fight for better health for all moms and babies. So tonight I am joined by two of my very fabulous teammates, Mrs. Janae Myers and Mrs. Erica Shoemate. And
Hi, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world.
yes, I want you all to know that these two are so unapologetic about our Beauty Counter mission. And for both of them, they were living and preaching the mission of Beauty Counter before they were ever even introduced to Beauty Counter. So I want you all to know these two are the real deal. They have a wealth of information, and what they have learned along their individual life's journey, they bring to Beauty Counter and to whoever they meet and talk to. So, again, before we get into our conversation, I'm going to share a little background with you all on the both of them. And I'm going to start with Erica because it is because of Erica that we are actually even partnering with the March of Dimes NICU Family Support Centers. And Erica was a benefactor of the March of Dimes mission, and now as a result, she is a maternal and infant health ambassador. And I'm sure she will share a little bit more of that story with you when we start our conversation. She knows the CEO of March of Dimes, Stacy Stewart. And so when we were trying to think of which organization we would partner with this year, Erica did not hesitate to go speak with Stacy personally and help solidify this partnership with Beauty Counter through our personal team, Counter Excellence. Erica is a wife to Antoine, and she has a beautiful baby girl, Nia, who is 3 years old. But outside of her family, mother, and wifely duties, by day, Erica is a tech policy leader. And Erica's background is so like just, it's I don't even know what to say about it. The girl is the truth, and I don't want to mess it up. So I'm going to read to you some things from her bio. But she is a tech policy leader at a social media giant where she works to ensure the trust and safety of global users from on and offline platform harm. She serves the public conversation as well. Prior to this role, Erica spent over 11 years working in the national security sector at the FBI. I said that, the FBI, and across the U.S. intelligence community, including global assignments to protect our nation and our national interests abroad. I told y'all, she's the truth. Through this work, she was able to further enhance her cross functional expertise in building and cultivating relationships, writing and shaping policy, leading, developing, coaching, mentoring others to gain confidence and empowerment to be the best version of themselves personally and professionally. So that's my friend Erica, which she
Thank
already
you.
said. What's up? Hello to the people. Thank you, Erica, for joining us tonight.
Thank
And
you for having me.
yes, thank you. And before we go to Erica, let me now introduce you to Mrs. Janae Dunlap Myers. Now, Janae and I have a very extensive history. We go back to being dance mates at Jacob's Dance Academy. I'm not even sure how old were you when you started, Janae? Were you
I was in the sixth grade. I don't remember what year that was, but yeah, it was a long time ago.
okay? Yes, a long, long time ago. I'd probably say I was about 7 or 8 when she started at Jacob. So, and hey, we're in our 40s, 40. So you can tell how long we have known each other. But
Yes,
Janae also is the wife to Dale Myers, and she is the mother, the proud mom of 3 kids, ages 4, 11, and her oldest would be turning 13 in December. However, due to a pediatric brain tumor that she was diagnosed with at the age of 6, she now resides in heaven with our Heavenly Father. But we never forget Miss Jayla. We always honor and remember her, and Janae will not let you forget that Jayla, yes, is a part of her life.
Amen.
3 beautiful kids.
yes,
So
ma'am. Always and forever.
that's right.
Amen.
Lives.
And so before, let me tell you a little bit about Janae before she became a mom. So Janae, her professional history, she was a sports medicine professional who turned into a homeschooling mom and mompreneur. She worked in the professional arena with organizations such as the WNBA and NFL Europe. And she was also in medical device sales. So again, she's also the truth. Like,
Mhm.
these ladies have bomb resumes, and I just feel honored to be in their company. Um, she had to leave her professional jobs back when she was pregnant with Jayla. She went on complete bed rest at 18 weeks, who was ultimately born at 27 weeks. And so, because we know that November is Prematurity Awareness Month, um, and for those of you who don't know, a baby is considered premature if he or she is born before 37 weeks gestation. So, and across the world, there's an estimated 15 million babies who were born prematurely, and of that 15 million, approximately 1 million do not survive. Now, in the grand scheme of things, that is a very, very low percentage. However, for me, when we're talking about human life, a baby life, like, that's too many.
Right.
So, Janae, let's talk to you. And if you would, just tell us, how did you become a NICU mom? What is your story? How long were you a NICU mom? And yeah, just whatever you're willing to share with us.
Okay, so hello everyone. So glad you were able to tune in with us. I first had an issue. Jayla's life first became threatened at 14 weeks when I was diagnosed with vasoprevia, which vasoprevia, everyone is familiar with placenta previa, but vasoprevia is where your blood vessels are right at the opening of the vagina. So if the baby once the baby is delivered, it will actually go through and sever those vessels, causing, death to baby and mom. And so I went on a like a light bed rest, trying to see if it would resolve itself. And so I went back to the hospital 4 weeks later at 18 weeks, and they were like, "Oh, good, everything is good. We don't have to worry about vasoprevia anymore." And we were like, "Woohoo! Yeah, 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 yeah!" And so they were like, "But," and we were like, "But." They said, now we have another problem. You have cervical funneling. And so that's when the cervix is starting to open up in preparation to deliver the baby. And at 18 weeks, no baby is ready to come out then, right? So they stated we could do a cerclage, a cervical cerclage, where they go in and sew up the cervix to keep the baby from coming through, but it's very risky at 18 weeks. It could cause a miscarriage. And so they said, well, before we go that route, let's try a high dose of ibuprofen and complete bed rest for 2 weeks. So I did that, came back, and they were like, oh, your body likes that, so we'll continue that. So that's how I ended up on complete bed rest, only getting up, complete, like laying flat. You know how some people say they on bed rest, but they chilling, walking around the house fixing food? Yeah, no, not me. I couldn't take a shower. Yes, my husband is still here with me, so it couldn't have been that bad, right? So I only set up to eat and laid back down, got sponge baths and all that stuff, sponge baths. And so at 23 weeks, I went in to see the specialist, and it was around 4 o'clock, and they stated we need to contact your OBGYN. And so what happened is that at that particular time, the only thing holding the baby in at that time were the membranes, like just the membranes. And so they were like, you have to go to the hospital. So this being our first child, my husband and I were like, okay, so when you say go to the hospital, do you mean like go home, pack your bag first thing in the morning, go? Or do you mean like, get in the car and don't pass stop and go straight to the hospital? And so they was like, yeah, pass stop and go straight to the hospital. So he was like, okay. So at that time, we hadn't picked out a name or anything. So I turned to Dale. I was like, look, we got to name this baby because apparently it's coming. So anyway, went into the hospital, stayed in the hospital, not knowing what was going on, because we didn't know it. They weren't saying anything. And so stayed in the hospital on complete bed rest. Luckily, I did not have to be turned upside down to keep the baby, in. I could still just lay flat. And they were giving me all types of drugs to help stop the labor and all of that stuff. But then at 27 weeks, I ended up getting an infection with on me. And so they checked my blood, they checked the urine, no infection. So they said the infection is in there with the baby. So we have to stop all measures and allow nature to take its course and allow the baby to be born. And so that's what happened. And so Jayla was born at 27 weeks. This is her here. This is her here, born at 27 weeks. She weighed 2.4 pounds and 13.5 inches long. And so we actually stayed in the NICU for 56 days. And so with preemies, they worry about brain bleeds. They worry about the heart. As the PDA, a hole in the heart that closes up. Like every newborn baby has it, but with newborns, the hole is able to close up on its own. However, with preemies, they typically sometimes require surgery intervention to help it to close. So they worry about the lungs developing, they worry about the brain bleeds, they worry about the PDA, which Jayla had none of those. And she only remained on the CPAP for less than 48 hours. So she is definitely our miracle baby. She only received oxygen for about 21 days. And they worry about retinopathy of prematurity with the eyes, with the preemies, and they have to be monitored. So she was fine. She didn't have any of that. This one disease called nephritis enterocolitis neck, that is the one disease that pretty much takes the preemies out. Because one thing with the preemies, you don't know what's going to happen. The doctors say, we do our part, you do your part, and then God does the rest. We don't know what's going to happen. Every day it's a day to day. Let's see what's showing up today, with the baby. And it's basically God and the baby determines if they walking out, and so it's truly a testament of your faith. It's truly a testament of your strength, your courage, and your love, because that's what helps keeps the babies here, with the kangaroo care. That is when they have the skin to skin contact, and that is how preemies thrive, be it skin to skin with mom or skin to skin with dad. And that is the love, it helps to regulate their temperature, it helps to regulate their feeding, their thriving, and all of that. And so we did have a scare with Jayla with the neck, and it was on a Monday. And they called us and they said, look, it's not looking good. And it's funny because on that Sunday, we take pictures every day, and thousands of pictures per day. And you can look at her face and see that she's not fine. And so on that Monday, they pretty much threw everything at her, all the drugs, everything, whatever they could, And by that Friday, she was fine. But the test came back, she didn't even have it, So I believe that was God. He healed her, and everything. So, once she was diagnosed with pediatric brain cancer, we were like, oh, she's fine. She's going to beat that. We done been through, way worse than that, as a preemie mom. So, we were like, all bets are off. But, I sit here with her on my shirt as our beloved angel, as you heard in the intro, her story ended a different way. But so that's how I became a NICU mom. And it's a time that is very dear, as you will hear from Erica. And it's a time that it doesn't ever leave you. Like, even though we graduated, from the NICU, we graduated from the from the immediate side, and then we went to the graduate side, and then we graduated and left from there, and we came home. It's still something you carry with you, like, always. Here it is. My child is in heaven, and it's still a part of me. So that's how I became a proud NICU mom.
Yeah, wow. And like I've told you before, I think your story is so powerful, and all three of us are moms. And thankfully, I never went through having any of my babies go to the NICU. But listening to your story, I can only imagine what you could have possibly been going through on a day-to-day basis. I know as a mom, just when you're giving birth, you're wondering, like, is everything going to be okay? And just the level of, I don't say anxiety, but the concern.
Anxiety.
Yeah, there's some anxiety, but it's just that level of care and concern for this small human being that you and your husband, along with God, have helped to create. And so I just think, hearing your story and knowing what you went through, and for other people who are watching or will watch later to know that is a scary time in your life, because you're wondering, like you said, you don't know if your baby is going to make it. And not all babies that are born prematurely end up in the NICU. You can have full-term babies who also end up in the NICU. So now I want to shift over to you, Erica, and hear your story, because if I'm correct, Nia wasn't born prematurely, right?
She was not. No. And that is what makes her story unique, and why I really serve as a mouthpiece. Like, as Janae mentioned, I have a lot of NICU mom friends who did have preemies. And again, we all share a unique journey. Mine was just a little bit different. And sometimes it can be a little more challenging, because there are things that when babies are preemies, doctors know what to do in a NICU. Like, everything is, you have this course of action that you typically take, etc. But with Nia, I'll back up a little bit about how we got to the NICU. On June 1st, 2017 is when our life, my husband and I, Antoine's life, changed forever. It was when the doctor, our fetal medicine specialist, so high-risk doctor, informed us on that day that Nia had a rare condition that wasn't compatible with life, and that she would not survive birth. And I just remember those words. And before he could even say anything, like you said, as a mom, you just kind of know. And like the hospital room, because we were at a hospital here locally, seeing the doctor, and it was just this eerie feeling. And before he could even say the words, I just burst into tears. And, he kept apologizing. He was so sorry. He's like, but her chest is so small, it won't grow. And there's no way she could survive birth. And we actually recommend termination. And I was like, I just got to get out of this hospital. Like, my best friend, she was supposed to send out our save the dates for my shower that was going to be in Memphis. So I live in the DC area, but Memphis is home. And I had to immediately text and say, stop whatever you're doing. And of course she's calling, and I'm not even in a state to even talk to anyone. I'm almost hysterical. I just got to get somewhere where I can breathe. And fast forward, I actually had made the appointment to terminate Nia. Never thought as a honestly a family of faith that I would ever be faced with that. We got a second opinion that following week, and the doctor recommended the same thing, termination. Nia had, she was diagnosed initially as a misdiagnosis with short rib polydactyly syndrome, which is a very rare form of dwarfism that has about a 99% mortality rate, because the baby would just suffocate upon birth due to the rib cage not being able to grow, would be completely restricted. Through honestly divine intervention and some genetic testing, all these things, like, and I know a lot of people talk about like, oh, don't you get genetic testing when you're like at 12 weeks or so? I'm like, yeah, that wouldn't have discovered Nia's rare genetic disorder. And we did additional blood tests and all these things, and we found out my husband, who is 6'2", was a carrier of a very rare form of dwarfism called Ellis-Van Creveld syndrome. And because I immediately thought it was me, I'm short, I'm under 5 feet, it must be me. And my genetic test came back, it was clear. But seeing Ellis-Van Creveld syndrome, it's an autosomal recessive disorder. We both had to have it in order for them to even think that that's what Nia had. And Ellis-Van Creveld looked very similar to short rib polydactyly syndrome. Fast forward, as I said, I made the appointment. My husband had a dream, actually, that I was waddling, and we knew at that point that we had carried Nia to term. So it was his dream that actually is what led us to not terminating our pregnancy. And it was just God kept intervening. Like when we tried to, like, it was cost that was the thing, because insurance said that they were not going to pay for these things because I wasn't considered a high risk personally. And you know, it wasn't like the baby was impacting my health. As we all know, psychologically, it was totally impacted, right?
Right, yes.
Right. And I think that is also really important. So fast forward, we find out when we were coming back from our baby moon, we decided we were just going to dance in the rain and have a baby moon, take pictures, live life, and celebrate and go eat, travel. Like, we love to travel. So we were supposed to go to Barbados for our 5th year wedding anniversary that year, but then got pregnant, surprise, and couldn't go there because of Zika. And so we decided to go to Amelia Island, Florida. And in the airport, we got a call from our genetic counselor stating that it was official that Nia was diagnosed with Ellis-Van Creveld syndrome. I just so happened to have an unknown mutation on the same gene that causes EBC that they had only seen in one other case, and that was in November of 2016. And keep in mind, I got pregnant in February 2017. So bizarre. Yeah. And Ellis-Van Creveld has less than 300 cases reported globally, but it's highly concentrated in the Amish Dutch community. For those who are watching, no, I'm not Amish. No, my husband's not Amish. We might be Dutch. I don't know. And, you know, it was just complete shocking. And we found out that with Ellis-Van Creveld, your child likely will have a congenital heart defect. Not always, but typically the child will. So that also increases their risk for death. And so although Ellis-Van Creveld is not 100% lethal, it has a super high mortality rate, like 80, 90% most of the time. And then also most parents are told to terminate because it looks like another form of dwarfism. So fast forward, it was still like, getting prepped. I transfer high risk doctors because the doctor I was seeing did not deliver babies. So for those who are watching, there are also doctors who are like specialists, maternal fetal medicine specialists that don't deliver babies. And so that's a whole situation. And I wanted to be in the care of a one-stop shop because I knew I was already faced with so much stress. And I transferred all of my care. And the blessing of that was I ended up going with a OBGYN who had actually just transferred from a hospital in Memphis 2 months prior to meeting me.
Wow.
And I was like, wait, what?
Right.
And it was so bizarre. And we had a lot of meetings with the Fetal Care Center here in Northern Virginia. And they set us up with an amazing pediatric cardiologist here. And she started seeing Nia, in utero. We did find out Nia actually had an atrial septal defect, so a hole in her heart, and she had a ventricle septal defect. And they were watching for the PDA, as Janae mentioned. earlier because that is supposed to close on its own. And so they were like, oh my gosh, just, she definitely probably won't survive. She already has small lungs and now definitely this congenital heart defect. And it was a nice size hole in her heart. Fast forward to my last pediatric cardiologist visit. Nia had tissue growing where the VSD was that wasn't there before. And she still had the ASD, but that VSD is what typically causes babies to have open heart surgery sooner rather than later, normally in the first 4 months of life. So at 37 weeks, I go to my last pediatric cardiologist appointment on Tuesday, September 26th, in 2017. And I tell my husband he can go to work. I'll go to my last high-risk appointment. Well, not last. It's supposed to have been next to the last. My last high-risk appointment on my own. It'll be fine. I'm just going to do my non-stress test, ultrasound. We're going to be good.
Right.
Have a good day. The only time I've said that. Get to the hospital. Well, before that, I should back up and say I had a craving for Chick-fil-A spicy chicken sandwich and lemonade and some fries. Like, don't know why. That is what Nia wanted.
Right.
So we ate all of that. We get to the non-stress test. She fails. So they're like, oh, she's sleeping. Typically she's active. They're like, oh, she's probably, because I normally go to those appointments in the mornings. This was afternoon. Fast forward, they take me to the ultrasound room. So the sonographer is looking, we're just talking. Fast forward, we find out that I have no amniotic fluid.
Uh-huh.
Keep in mind, I said Nia's lungs is already small.
Right.
Amniotic fluid, for those who don't know, it keeps the baby able to breathe. That's where the oxygen comes from. So through the delivery, they're able to breathe as they're going through labor, like you're going through labor and delivery. And he was like, and we may not be able to wait for your husband. You need to deliver this baby today and by C-section. I had planned for a C-section. As we got two reds on this call, as we call ourselves, super type A. And I was like, wait, what? Immediately burst into tears. And in my head, I'm like, I'm already, there were things we hadn't planned for, but I definitely didn't plan for this.
Right.
And I have no hospital bag, no husband, no nothing. I'm in this whole place alone. And all the nurses just kind of swarmed to my care and just like, you're going to be fine. You have just been a blessing to care for. You're so gracious. And they were just so loving. At the same time, like calling my best friend, Dana, who is also now a Beautycounter business partner with me. Literally my ride or die. Call her in Memphis. Call her up, tell her what's going on. Well, first she didn't answer the phone, so I was freaking out. My mom is like, you can't have the baby now. I'm not there. I'm like, well, the baby's coming. I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
And so, Dana dropped life for me. She has 2 kids of her own and a husband and a job. Within 2 hours, she had a flight for my mom and her. And I didn't even realize it. I'm thinking she's coming the next day. It was on the next flight smoking out of Memphis within 2 hours to make sure she was there for Nia's delivery. So fast forward. They wanted to deliver me the same night, but my doctor was like, okay, if we can keep the baby in for one more night, you won't have to compete with the nighttime neonatologist and all the other things. As guys, everyone knows, after 5, hospital staff typically goes down, particularly labor and delivery.
Right. Yep.
So fast forward, Nia does fine. I get to take that one last shower.
Right.
And for the audience, I also craved Gourmet Bell, aka Taco Bell. It was a whole ordeal. And it only started to happen like late into my second trimester, going into third. I started having these weird Gourmet Bell cravings. And I wanted a Mexican pizza with chicken, no beef, easy on the beans. I needed a whole bunch of fire and mild sauce, no hot. Thank you very much. And so I do remember that was my last before baby meal. And so fast forward that night, it was just, nothing but God. I was just at peace knowing that we had prepped for Nia's funeral, had a memorial gown, the whole 9 yards. Antoinette called, had the arrangements ready where we knew where we'll call for to make the arrangements, etc. And on September 27th, 2017, I was the first cesarean section case of the day. Had an amazing team, people that I had saw the night before. God was just giving me signs, and I didn't even realize that these same people were part of my journey the next morning. And I cannot forget my amazing labor and delivery nurse. She was a supervisor. She's our friend today. Name is Ariel. Shout out. Hey.
Hey, Ariel.
This was such a blessing to us, and just made everything okay. And so on September 27th, 2017, at 9:26 a.m., Nia was born. I'll never forget it. They're, cutting me, baby's coming, baby's out. And she cries. And the whole entire operating room is full of all types of specialists, respiratory therapists, neonatologists, the heart specialists, all the OB team, the whole swarm, genetic counselors, the whole 9 yards, and tears are flowing from people we don't even know. And all I can see is like this guy, I never forget it, that's like behind me. And his eyes are so big. He's like, what just happened here? I mean, because they had the ECMO machine, they had the oscillator, they had everything ready. And it takes all the beautiful NICU nurses that were part of Nia's original that day of delivery to, like, we laugh about it because she was like, we can talk about it now.
Right.
Yeah.
It was just such a beautiful memory because I literally was prepared to bury my daughter. And God bless you, Janae, that, you have a heavenly angel. And I just remember the grief I experienced waiting for my daughter to die. And as all of us know as moms, there is something about knowing the rhythm of your baby, the way they sleep in your stomach, the way they move their legs, it all.
Right.
And that's why they say it's nothing like a mother's love. And that is why I use my journey to help other mothers that may be suffering in silence. And Nia spent 118 days in 2 different NICUs. It's exactly 2 months. Nia coded twice in one day. And that day, she was the most stable baby in the NICU. We thought she had died. And I'll never forget it. I was like, God, you brought us this far. She's 2 months now. What is happening? And then exactly 1 week later, we transfer her to another hospital in Delaware that has been like a savior in that they care for a lot of Amish Dutch families. So they had seen the most cases of this particular rare form of dwarfism. And Nia became a completely different baby as a result. Nia was finally discharged from the NICU on January 24th, 2018. And she had open heart surgery on April 16th, 2019. And she is doing extremely well. 3-year-old, as everyone knows, if you follow me, she's a boss baby. She is living life to the fullest. But what I want to say about maternal and infant health as a result of my daughter's journey, and I'm sure Janae can relate, I was diagnosed with postpartum anxiety and PTSD. And living life in the NICU, you don't realize how much of a survivor mode you're in until you get home or you get that first unexpected hospital stay. And that's what happened to me. Nia had our first unexpected hospital stay. And in the emergency room, the beeping noise went off. I'll never forget it. And it reminded me of the NICU. And I literally lost it. Like was in tears. And that's when I knew I wasn't okay. And I had a family support me, and one of my other closest best friends, a line sister that held me accountable to ensure that I received the appropriate care that I needed. And so if you're out there and even if you had a healthy baby, postpartum is real. And as Black women, we are strong, but that doesn't mean we don't need support.
Right.
And that is why March of Dimes is near and dear to me. And I am so grateful for the leadership of Stacey Stewart and the other amazing development managers out there too, like really fighting to literally elevate the crisis that we're having here in America for maternal health. And more importantly, on top of that, and sadly, Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die as a result of giving birth complications. And our Black babies have a higher infant mortality rate as well. And then put postpartum issues on top of that. it's so important that we take care of our community. And that is why, and I'm sure Nicole will talk about in a little while, why Pouch with Purpose is so important to us.
Yeah. And that's a perfect segue because I was going to put the question out there. Given both of your journeys and knowing what you went through, the mental anguish every day, praying, wondering, hoping, if we were doing this initiative back then, what would that pouch have meant for you as a NICU mom? Like, why is it important? That's what I
Yes.
want to know. Why is this campaign that our team is running so important for us to deliver? And we have pledged 2,000 pouches.
Yes.
2,000
So
pouches.
you should support this cause if you are listening tonight or later, because what it meant for me to get like unexpected small tokens of support and love for either families who had gone through the NICU before or people who just had a given heart. And you didn't know, like, it could be your worst day. And I'm sure Janae knows what I mean. It could be your worst day, whether your milk wasn't coming out right that day. We were both pumping mamas, trying to, nurse, doing all this pumping, taking your bags, your milk bags from home to the hospital and making sure the baby has enough. And, it's a lot. And it's just some days you would get a gift, you didn't even know where it was coming from. And to be able to give that gift of clean, non-toxic products to the most fragile babies is so, to me, priceless. Giving them a fresh, clean start and something to mom. I mean, that mom will never forget that pouch. If I had a pouch like that, I'm telling you, I would be using it today. It's something, it'll be a keepsake. I mean, I'm sure we all, if you're a NICU mom, cardiac ICU mom, you got all these keepsakes. That would be one of them. And it would take you back. There's nothing like nostalgia of like living as crazy as it was. There were beautiful moments too. I have moms that we're like friends forever. We're built by the bond of the NICU. It's not the club that you want to join, but you embrace it and it is what it is. And being able to give back to a place where I know was some of our darkest times and hardest times, yet so beautiful in its own way,
Right.
is so incredible and priceless, and is educating moms and dads about being intentional and being clean about what we put on our babies, prayerfully once they come home. And so that's a lot of what it means to me, because we know that there are a lot of things that are, even for babies, that we assume are good for them or clean for them, and they're not. And to be able to, give a gift of education as well is just so priceless and incredible to me.
Right. And speaking on education, the reason why it's important to me is that it was because Jayla was born a preemie that I became aware that our products were not healthy for us, and that in fact they were harmful. And it was her neonatologist who told me, and he was like, it's funny, he was the same neonatologist because Jayla was born at 2:01 in the morning, and around 5 o'clock they were getting ready to roll me upstairs. And he was like, well, what are you getting ready to go do? And I was like, take a nap, go to bed, rest. And so he was like, no, you have to go pump. We need the best. We need the liquid growth. He was American. And we need the best. We need the liquid growth. You have to go pump. And so from that moment, I was pumping every 3 hours, for 56 days, while I was at the hospital, while I was at home. It was just like she was nursing on me, but I was pumping. But he told us that we needed, remember I mentioned the kangaroo care. So he told us that we needed to be mindful of the products that we used on our skin because they could harm her just by her touching us.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, how is that? That was kind of baffling to me, because I'm like, just by her simply touching our skin, she could become harmed.
Yep.
But so then it got me to thinking, like, well, what is it actually doing to our body when we lather up, soap up, and brush our teeth and put it all in our bodies? Like, what's really going on? And so that's when I started researching with the Environmental Working Group, which is a bipartisan nonprofit organization designed to look out for us and advocate for us as consumers on everything from the water we drink, the personal care products we use, everything from the chemicals they use outside.
And food.
Definitely, and foods. Yes, definitely the food, because that was before I researched the products. I was using them for our foods with Clark Howard. For everybody in the ATL, we know who Clark Howard is. But anyway, so because of that, then I started looking at the products that they were using on Jayla to bathe her in. And I started looking at the ingredients. And I'm sitting there the doctor said, we're not supposed to use this, but y'all got this here in the NICU. It's like,
Yep.
we're not gonna use that. I'm gonna bring my own stuff so we can make sure my baby is safe. So it is definitely important to me. And so that's why when Nikki introduced Beautycounter to me, I was like, I'm already living that life.
Yeah.
So what made me say yes is because Beautycounter is taking it a step further. They're trying to change the laws so that all products will have to be made safe, and so that everyone will have access to safer products. Because if you don't know, then you out there using whatever you could, just like we were before Jayla was born a preemie. And so this way, by the laws being changed, and that every company has to make safer products and not put harmful ingredients in them like carcinogens, then everybody will be made safe. So to know that we are being a part of a campaign where we're actually putting together products to deliver to the NICU for these precious babies is just priceless. It is like, you never know why things happen to you. You never know why your story unfolds the way it does. But when things like this happen, it lets you know my living has not been in vain.
Yep. Purpose for my pain. That is my hashtag. Right. Purpose for my pain.
And that is why I use my life's journey to help people who are either walking the walk I have walked, who either have walked the walk I walk, and even trying to prevent them from walking the walk that I walk.
Amen.
It's kind of asinine, like I said with Jayla, all the drugs that I had to take to keep her in my stomach, then all the drugs she had to take to keep her here on earth, and they had to even give her a blood transfusion, which, in my mind, I believe that that's where the cancer was introduced. Even though they screen and do all of that stuff, I tried to get them to use my blood, which, how asinine is this? Well, your blood hasn't really been screened and tested and all of this. She just came out of me. Whose blood you think is in her? But as a first-time mom, you don't know this stuff. You like, I don't know. And so that's why I, want to try to help educate other women, other childbearing women of childbearing age, to empower them so that they know their rights, so that they know that they have a voice, and that they can do what they feel is best for their
and even and I'll add to that too, for those, like, I know we're talking about maternal and infant health, but as a maternal and infant health ambassador, the reason why Beautycounter totally aligns with my maternal and infant health mission and women's health is because you can't talk about maternal and infant health if you aren't talking about women's and reproductive health. Regardless if you ever have kids, don't want kids, that's fine too, but you still have reproductive health, and toxic chemicals impact your reproductive organs and your hormones. It can totally imbalance them. And exactly what Janae said about policy, as I remind people, influencing policy is where there is the game changer. Hence is why I am a policy leader. I realize that is where change happens. And yeah, grassroots is great. Don't get me wrong. That's like getting us fired up, but it is when you're able to influence that policy change, which is exactly what Beautycounter is doing. And so when you see the hashtag leader in clean, it is because we truly are the leaders in clean. And it's over 1,800 ingredients we never use as a result of being intentional. And keep in mind too, folks watching this, in the US, there are only 30 chemicals that are banned currently under our legislation, and there has not been any major regulatory updates to health and beauty regulatory laws since 1938. That is over 80 years. Yet in the European Union, they currently ban 1,400 or limit toxic ingredients. And some of these same companies that operate in the European Union, they do business right here in the US, and they follow those regulatory laws there. That is why you see us posting all the time about clean beauty. We're educators more than just a business. And I think that that is so critical, and particularly for our community being women of color. My whole goal is to educate and advocate. And so people know, the more you know, the more you know. And when you don't know, yes, you don't know. And that's why you see this whole movement. Like I always tell people, you can eat clean and train mean, but if you aren't being cognizant about what you're putting on your skin, which is the largest organ in your body, then really not talking about much, because like as soon as you put something on your skin, within 26 seconds, 60% is absorbed into your bloodstream.
Right.
And so you want to talk about being a mom and being prepped for a mom. These things can cause, you know, a lot of issues being pregnant, high risk pregnancies, and all these things that gives us this whole meaning of pouch with purpose. And so I can't reiterate that enough. That is why we love the business of clean, and why we are just so passionate and blessed to be able to pay it forward this holiday season. And we just hope that as you guys watch this, that you really feel the passion that we have and why it's so important to us to pay it forward and to give knowledge and to give love and joy to people who are going through some of the hardest times, and probably the hardest time of their life.
Right. And one thing I did want to mention when Erica stated with the toxins that we as women bring into our bodies, that they do get passed down to the babies that we carry. So even if you aren't carrying a baby and you are of childbearing age, the toxins that are in your body will be transferred to your fetus. They thought that the placenta would excrete the bad and give the good, but research is showing that the bad toxins actually do pass through, and that may explain, for example, when we went through a cancer killers conference with Jayla on with the fight for Jayla, we learned that a newborn baby straight out of the womb. I ain't talking about a preemie. I ain't talking about none of that. I'm just talking about a regular newborn baby. Any baby born straight out the womb is already has 200 to 300 toxins in their body. So where are they getting it from? They're getting it from us, the moms. They're getting it from the things that we're eating, the things that we're ingesting, and yes, the things that we're putting on our bodies.
Well, I told y'all at the very beginning that these two were unapologetic and just very passionate. I'm just as passionate with them. Y'all, thank you so much for taking the time to share your stories tonight. We want to tell you all who are watching with us, please support this campaign. It is $50 to sponsor a pouch. And Janae, while I tell them what's in the pouch, can you show them the products? In the pouch will be our baby gentle, all over gentle wash, our baby balm, and our baby oil. And so Erica mentioned there's
oil.
Pouch. Yes, that oil is so great, and it's good for babies. And I can tell you all the other things it's good for.
Right.
Good for cuticles. You can use to moisturize yourself. It's good to take makeup off. Like multiple uses. But of course, this is for those precious NICU babies, and we really would love your support. So $50. Sponsor a pouch. If you feel like, okay, I can't afford $50, grab a friend and get that friend to do 25 and you do 25. Or find 5 friends and each of you do $10. Whatever it takes, you can still sponsor a pouch to send to these precious NICU babies. Their moms and dads will greatly appreciate it. There will be this custom keepsake pouch. I wish I could show you. If you've seen our flyers, there's a picture of what that pouch will look like.
Tiny but mighty.
Tiny but mighty NICU Warrior. And you will be a sponsor card. We will gladly add your name to that sponsor card so that that family will know that you thought enough of them to provide them with those clean products. So what you need to do if you want to support us, if you know Erica, reach out to her, send her a text message, a direct message, a private message. Same with Janae, same with me. Let us know how many pouches you are willing to sponsor. And again, oh, there's the pouch. Thank you,
Yes.
Janae. That is the pouch. So send us a message. Let us know if you need to gather some friends to make the $50 donation. You know, by all means, do that. We'll put all of your names on the pouch. It's as simple as that. But we thank you so much for your time. Ladies, thank you for joining me and sharing
Thank
your
you.
stories, being vulnerable, open, honest, and raw. I hope everybody learned a lot from your stories. And like we said, we want people to be educated first and be proactive in taking care of your health, not reactive. Your
Amen.
skin, you have to live with it for the rest of your life. And we want to give these babies a great start. So,
Yes.
anything else, ladies? Yeah.
Yes, one thing I did want to mention in closing is that uh, just how things happen for a reason. Like Nikki has stated, this is our third year doing Pouch with Purpose. However, this is my first year participating because the last year I used my business to donate to Cure Childhood Cancer as well as the Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation. But this year, when I heard we were partnering with the March of Dimes, I said this is perfect. And so this year, Jayla, like Nikki stated earlier, she would be turning 13, and she was actually born 13 weeks premature. So I have a personal goal of donating 13 pouches to 13 of Jayla's friends who are also miracle babies in the NICU. So definitely, please reach out to Nikki, reach out to myself, reach out to Erica. And if you know any other Beautycounter consultants, definitely reach out to them and let them know that you want to be a part of this mission, because maybe you were born preemie. Maybe you know someone who was born preemie. Maybe you know someone who wasn't born preemie but has spent time in the NICU. We together, we can make good things happen. And we have been put on this planet to be our brothers and sisters keepers. And so we need you, but the miracle, tiny, mighty warriors need you more. So definitely reach out to us. We are waiting.
Yes, we are. Thank you. Erica, any last words?
No, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to spread, more education and awareness and knowledge, not only about clean living, clean beauty, but also the partnership with March of Dimes. The March of Dimes is, like you mentioned earlier, is leading a fight for strong moms and healthy babies, and truly turning a lot of things on its head that in the health disparities, the equity gaps in healthcare, highlighting the maternal health deserts. The report card will be coming out soon about how the U.S. is doing. I'm sure still not well because COVID has made it worse for maternal deaths among particularly women of color. And they have done an amazing job of providing over 3,500 participants with implicit bias training to really fight against those biases, unconscious biases that we might have, especially medical professionals, because again, Black women are seen as strong, not heard, no matter your socioeconomic status. As we unfortunately saw a week ago, another, Black doctor passed, after giving birth, and that's just not fine. And that is why we use our platform and our mouthpieces to really share why this is so important to us. So thank you again, and please support Pouch with Purpose. It's going to an amazing cause. So thank you again, Nikki, for this platform tonight.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you all. And so we hope you all have a great night. We look forward to your pledges coming in, and we'll say thank you in advance. All right.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Bye.